Hi, this is Melissa, the Living Learning Manager. So right now we're looking at the model, the Living Learning model, and one way that we can use to classify learning. So you'll see there's 4 parts to the model. There's these 3 main parts: academic learning, experiential learning, and then community learning. So let's take a closer look at academic learning. This is learning that we normally think of as scholarly and intellectual. So probably what we think of when we first think of learning. And it's that kind of learning that, course concepts, keywords, equations, and formulas. So a lot of that hard skills or technical knowledge. Research methods, presentation skills might fall under this category as well. And so learning in lectures, labs, tutorials, different class settings, those really formal learning settings a lot of the time are what we think of as scholarly or intellectual learning. In the living learning community, we see examples of this. For example, students may talk with a prof over dinner about the courses they teach, might learn from the prof a bit more about different course content and what courses are like, or maybe learn more about concepts. When you do the student success plans with students in your community, you'll be talking about setting those academic goals, so that's definitely related to that scholarly learning. You might be asking students might ask peer leaders, so you, about different majors or different classes you've taken or specializations or things like that. So again, it's very related to that academic learning experience. And then different things, attending a study session program. Maybe you take your students to a study for success session that's happening in residence. Maybe you help your students organize their own study group. Again, that falls under the academic learning. And then if we zoom out a bit here, we move to experiential learning. And so career and professional types of learning is what falls under this part of the model. So of course at Waterloo, one of the examples that we draw upon often is the learning that happens on a co-op term. So for those of you who are returning from a co-op term, you know that you had a lot of learning about how to be a professional, how to operate in the workplace. So that's experiential learning. You've learned it by doing it, by having that work experience. Co-op's just one way we can get experiential learning. We also have experiences in student leadership positions. So by being a peer leader, that's an experience. You're going to pick up some experiential learning. There's also a lot of different opportunities, whether it's summer jobs, on-campus jobs, even volunteering or other leadership positions could be that experiential learning. So you're really putting those skills into use. On the living learning front, students can pick up that experiential learning. Maybe they'll do things such as help you with a program or event that you're planning. So they're getting some hands-on experience in how to run an event and market and evaluate an event and things like that. Students might get experiential learning opportunities by talking with a faculty member or an upper year student about their career experiences, so hearing about the experiential learning of others. If we move over to the community side, so that's where we see social, cultural, and civic learning. So that's really the learning of how do you interact with other people? How do you be a member of a community or a member of society at large? So some examples that we might see on campus, getting involved in campus clubs, maybe doing things like volunteering. So, that's helping society, giving back to others, benefiting. Student councils, feds, things like that. Again, that citizenship component of community learning. How do we live with others? How do we interact with others falls under that community learning. So some living learning examples. Their students are in a community by living together in residence, so they're learning how to live with each other, both with the cluster of living learning students and overall with all the other students in their residence area. And then they get to build relationships with peers, so not only peers who are probably around the same age as them, but also peers who are in a similar academic program or faculty and going through a similar experience. I really like this quote by Aston. So he says, "The student's peer group is the single most potent source of influence on growth and development during the undergraduate years." So this is really explains, or is part of the reason why we have a living learning community, and that we think there's benefit to students living together in residence, because their peer group is so influential that we're providing them with that opportunity to positively grow and influence and development each other during this first year experience. Underlying all of this is health and wellness. So the idea is that you can't have these other learning experiences if you're not doing things like sleeping well, exercising, and eating. And the peer in the living learning community, the peer leader could role model balance, ideally. There's also some questions on the student success plan about non-academic goals. So in a nutshell, that is the living learning model. So one way that we can categorize some of the different learning experiences, and hopefully you can see how learning and the living learning community touches on all those different ways of learning.